What's going on, folks? Ted from Immersion here, and as promised, I'm back with the other Sage Advice update slash book erratas. If you missed my last video, I said that there was we covered some Sage Advice that was handled in a sort of things not tied to specific books, but about 8 or so books got errata in them. Some of them minor, some of them more so. So let's go ahead and dive into that. But before we do so, if you do like what I do here, coverage of all sorts of different things, Dungeons and Dragons, by the way, I do have a couple of very interesting discussion-style videos coming out in the next couple days, as well as continuing on the Fizban's Treasury of Dragons, as well as the Strixhaven coverage. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. So I'll show you right here is the page, right, Sage Advice book updates. This is what we talked about, and basically all of these books here are the ones that received updates. So if you were to click on down at the bottom where it says Sage Advice Compendium, it will take you to this document, and then you'll see all these ones that are listed as new. And if you click on them, it'll take you to that document, and then you can basically search for what is new. So like I said in that last video, something that I'll cover again here, any race, any character race, player race, I should say, that had a section in it that covered alignment has since been removed. So if you look at this under the race section in the player's handbook, it says racial traits, alignment, dwarf traits, alignment, elf traits, and so on. Any section that has the word alignment in it, referring to the alignment, has completely been cut. So in some instances, that does remove a large chunk of the book, especially if it's a book that contains a bunch of races in it. In addition, it also has the section, the updates to the Dark Elf Drow section. We kind of covered that in before, but basically this is to reflect the new lore that they have established, that not all Drow are tied to Lolth. That is just a specific kind of cult. Those that are in Menzoberranzan, the cult kind of Lolth, but other Drow do not find themselves underneath that same sort of mentality and the way they exist. Again, the Darkness of Drow sidebar, which was all about, again, that same kind of history of the Drow, which was how it was back when 2014, when Drow were introduced to 5th edition, and again, were introduced and just continued the lore and the history that has already been there. That has all been cut, and as you can see, again, all of the alignment sections have been removed. Moving into the Cleric in the Player's Handbook, nothing really game-shattering here, just, well, actually, there is one thing that is, and I will talk about that. But first, there's these couple of things about bonus cantrips, and it's really just clearing up stuff that I'm surprised hasn't been cleared up in the past. But it says the following sentence has been added to the end of this paragraph. This cantrip doesn't count against the number of cleric cantrips you know. So it just, if anything, references the number of, you get an additional cleric cantrip. They're just clarifying that it doesn't count against the number of cleric cantrips. It's in addition. Same thing with Acolyte of Nature, which lets you choose a druid, I think a druid cantrip to be your own. It says this cantrip counts as a cleric cantrip for you, but it doesn't count against the number of cleric cantrips you know. So therefore it is going on to just clarify that. But the biggest one would be the Avatar of Battle from the War Cleric, which used to specifically state that at level 17, you had resistance to attacks dealt by non-magical weapons. That has since been changed to non-magical attacks. That's a big change, although it is a small nomenclature adjustment. Previously, that would mean that if you were attacked by a weapon that attacked by something that did bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing, unless it was clarified as a weapon, it didn't deal. It would deal full damage to you. Now it has just been changed to non-magical attacks. Why this is not bludgeoning, piercing, slashing damage, period, I don't know, because I believe that's how it is for the Forge Domain Cleric. They just happen to adjust it for the Avatar of Battle for the War Domain. Again, the distinction between non-magical weapons and non-magical attacks is nice, so it is a slight improvement. Again, for the Druid, once again, bonus cantrips, the same kind of thing where it says this doesn't count against the number of Druid cantrips you know. Moving along, I don't think we have many more updates for the other races. We do have an adjustment to the alignment section that did exist in the player's handbook. It says, in the description of the alignment, the final sentence has been replaced as shown below. It says, gold dragons and what? In the description of each alignment, the final sentence has been replaced as shown below. Gold dragons and paladins. Oh, they added typically. So, typically or usually. So in the past, it said gold dragons and paladins are lawful good, which was also something I was going to make a video on as sort of like a joke, that the player's handbook did state that paladins were lawful good, not typically. So the concept here is they did add kind of what they did to the monsters, where they add typical in front of alignment. Many celestials are neutral good. Copper dragons and unicorns are typically chaotic good, and so on, to allow for deviation in the various creatures here, right? Yugoloths are typically neutral evil. Demons and red dragons are typically chaotic evil. Again, adjustments to just show that there are exclusions and exceptions to any of those rules. Also, the alignment in the multiverse section has changed. It says the first 3 paragraphs have been replaced with the following. For many thinking creatures, alignment is a moral choice. Humans, dwarves, elves, and other people can choose whether to follow the paths of good or evil, law or chaos. According to myth, the gods who created these folk gave them free will to choose their moral paths. Alignment is an essential part of the nature of celestials and fiends. Both types of creatures are associated with metaphysical planes of existence, specifically the outer planes that embody certain alignments. For example, most devils hail from the 9 hells, a plane of lawful evil. A devil does not choose to be lawful evil or tend toward lawful evil, but rather it is lawful evil in its essence. If it somehow ceases to be lawful evil, it changes into something new, a transformation worthy of legend. So that is a little bit added in there. And then again, under the feat section, a similar adjustment as made to the War Domain Cleric was made to the Heavy Armor Master feat. In the section bullet, it says non-magical weapons is now non-magical attacks. It reduces the damage you receive from non-magical weapons by 3. That has been adjusted to be non-magical attacks. Again, small change, but could be beneficial and could see use in play. Moving on to spells, the clone spell has an adjustment. In the components entry, hold a medium creature is now hold the creature being cloned. In the description's first sentence, a living medium creature is now a living creature. In the description's second sentence, a sealed vessel is now the vessel used in the spell's casting. And then Find Familiar had an adjustment. It says the third paragraph has been replaced with the following. When the familiar drops to 0 hit points, it disappears, leaving behind no physical form. It reappears after you cast this spell again. As an action, you can temporarily dismiss to a pocket dimension. Alternatively, you can dismiss it forever. As an action, while it's temporarily dismissed... Oops, that just popped up in the middle of my screen there. That's annoying. As an action, while it is temporarily dismissed, you can cause it to reappear in an unoccupied space within 30 feet of you. Whenever the familiar drops to 0 hit points or disappears into a pocket dimension, it leaves behind in its space anything it was wearing or carrying. And the 5th paragraph has been completely removed. Mordenkainen's Magnificent Mansion now says in the final sentence, any creatures inside is now any creatures or objects left inside. These are a lot of clarifications. It seems like stuff we had seen early on, if I recall, where people were trying to figure out, could I give my familiar or put in my magical Magnificent Mansion something and then dismiss it, and then it would be housed forever in a pocket dimension, and I wouldn't have to worry about it, right? If I gave my familiar this specific magic item and then sent it away to its pocket dimension, it's now, for all intents and purposes, safe and unable to be retrieved. Same thing with the Magnificent Mansion. Leave behind a magic weapon, a sword, an artifact, dismiss your mansion, and then it stayed in there. Now it says that it is kind of expelled. The only problem I'd say with a lot of this is I'd love to do comparisons with the original stuff, but the problem is all of these adjustments have also been made on D&D Beyond, so I can't even pull it up there to show it to you. And it's always, I don't love reading out of a physical book to you while also having something on the screen. So the only difference I would love to see would be to dive into and see what the exact difference is. Like, see, the 5th paragraph has been removed. I don't know what the 5th paragraph of Find Familiar was to be able to tell you. I guess I can look it up on my phone and see if I have an old version of Find Familiar from an app. Let's see, the 5th paragraph, I can't tell you because the app I have doesn't have it formatted in such a way that I can tell the different paragraphs. All right, so next up we have the Dungeon Master's Guide. This is once again kind of continuing the alignment adjustment. It says the Abyssal Corruption table, the heading of row 8 to 9 is now Overwhelming Ambition. NPC Mannerisms table, row 4 is now Speaks in a Usually Formal Manner. Row 8 is Prone to Sudden Suspicion. The Villains Methods table is an entry 14. The table, row 2 is now Confiscating Property. Row 3 is now Conspiracy. Row 4 is now Espionage or Spying. And row 5 is Oppressive Laws. These are, I'm assuming, more nomenclature changes to be more in line with the sort of vision and the front-facing image that Wizards of the Coast wants to provide. Chapter 5, the Residence table is now row 18 is a Hidden Thieves Den. Tavern table, row 16 to 17 is Race or Guild, is now Guild. Row 19 to 20 is now Music Venue. Ring of the Ram, in the second sentence, to attack is now changed to from attack to make a ranged spell attack against. That's just a little clarification there. And then in Chapter 9, again, creating a new race or subclass, race or subrace. The 3rd bullet has been removed. The 5th bullet, the race's history and culture, is now replaced with the race's history. As opposed to race's history and culture, it's now just history. Cultural alterations has been removed completely, and the alignment section has been removed from the Azamar that they created within that book. Curse of Strahd. It says in the 6th paragraph, the box text Gypsy has been changed to man. Vistani Thugs, it says neutral evil male and female humanoid is now neutral evil male and female human thugs. I guess that's just a small clarification. Gothic Trinkets, the word feral has been changed to feral. I guess that's just spelling it correctly, adding the letter R, an extra R in there. Tree Blight, in the stat block, the Tree Blight's hit points are now 92. And Esmeralda, it was originally called Esmeralda's Secret. It was a reference to her prosthetic leg. Is now called Esmeralda's Prosthetic. Additionally, the final sentence is now, she has since adapted well to the prosthetic appendage, as opposed to previously, I know it was all about her hiding it for fear of it making her weak, and that was called a secret. Now it's just kind of out in the open. Storm King's Thunder. They changed some wording for Zephyros, but I don't, maybe I'm missing something, but they referenced something about him recovering from the madness has been changed to recovering from the insanity. That seems like they're synonyms to me, but okay. On the 6th paragraph of the box text, he has an intelligence score of 18. And the spellcasting action, they basically made the spellcasting action table kind of adjustments that we've seen, where they've kind of made them number of times per day as opposed to spell slots. Pixie Dust has been changed to Fairy Dust in a couple of sections there. Under the Northlanders section, in the 1st paragraph, a few tribes of Northlanders, the present-day denizens of Icewind Dale, has been replaced with a few clans of Northlanders explored the monster-infested interior of the Savage Frontier, and they became the ancestors of the Uthgar tribes and the present-day denizens. The last paragraph has been changed to Northlanders farm, fish, and mine their rugged lands, then shrewdly trade their goods with foreign buyers. Many once feared tribes have become merchants whose bartering skills are equal to or better than the warlike talents of their ancestors, such that any Northlander merchant is wealthier than their raiding neighbors. Reghead Barbarians has been changed to Reghead Nomads. Uthgard Barbarians is now just called the Uthgard. Uthgard are black-haired, blue-eyed people. Few Uthgard are okay, that's changed. Half-orcs and orcs have now been just changed to orcs. And then there's a whole new section in here. What does it say? It says, the orcs, and the text has been replaced with the following. The history of the North is replete with tales of orc hordes spilling out of the mountains to attack the mines, ranches, farmsteads, and settlements of other folks. These orcs hear the call of Grumsh, the one-eyed god of slaughter, and most satisfy his hunger for carnage, lest he visit ruin upon them. When a particularly strong orc chieftain unites multiple clans under one banner, the resulting horde typically rampages across the land, laying waste to strongholds and slaughtering other creatures in its path. Reghead and Uthgard clans usually put aside their rivalries to oppose or destroy the horde. Settlements throughout the north form their own coalitions. The War of the Silver Marches, the latest such conflict, saw orcs fighting alongside white dragons and frost giants. Though the orcs and their mighty allies were defeated and sent scurrying back to their mountain lairs, numerous settlements throughout the Silver Marches were left in ruins, along with them the fortress city of Sundabar. Not all orc chieftains are bent on destruction. King Obald Many Arrows forged a tenuous alliance with his dwarf neighbors and helped maintain peace in the Silver Marches during his tumultuous reign. That's covered in a couple of the Drizzt novels. The random wilderness encounters, the barbarians, are now replaced with the language with Uthgardt Marauders. The corresponding barbarians random encounter is now called Marauders, and has moved to the end of the random encounters section. Orcs, it says the characters come across 2d6 plus 2 orcs. There's a 75% chance that the orcs are friendly and looking for a suitable place to build a homestead. Otherwise, the orcs are hostile and have prisoners in tow. A sample group of prisoners is presented, but you can create others. Flint Rock, the parenthetical reference, now refers to the Uthgardt section. And Clouthin Vale, the 6th paragraph, has changes to Clouth as an ancient dragon with the dual wand wielder trait. Special equipment trait and spellcasting action described below. And his challenge rating is 25 for 75,000 experience. The innate spellcasting and spellcasting traits have been replaced with the following. Again, the will and at will listed kind of here. Crypt Garden Fortress, the last paragraph, again, adjustments to one of the ancient green dragons there and their spellcasting. Morgar's Mound is under Uthgardt. Shadowtop Cathedral, the Treant has 200 hit points and has, again, adjusted spellcasting traits. Let's see, the third bullet under the new suggested encounter as the Cloud Giants, spellcasting adjusted and keen smell features have been cut. Chapter 4, the development, the third paragraph now refers to Tyranny of Dragons instead of Horde of the Dragon Queen and Rise of Tiamat. That's just condensing that down a little bit. Chapter 7, the Frost Giant Jarl, the 4th bulleted item, and the spellcasting trait, rather, have been replaced with his Wisdom and Charisma are 16 and gives you the new spellcasting block. The Countess in Chapter 9 has an intelligence of 16. Again, adjustments to the spellcasting block. Same thing with Slarkrethel. Again, adjustment to those. And then Appendix A, it says Horde of the Dragon Queen. The heading is now Tyranny of Dragons, and the first 3 paragraphs of this section have been replaced with the following text. Tyranny of Dragons deals with the rise of evil dragons and their attempt to free Tiamat from the 9 hells. If you use Tyranny of Dragons as a springboard into this adventure, you must change the timing of the events so the Tyranny of Dragons story and the events that precipitate Storm King's Thunder happen concurrently, with Annam the Allfather breaking the ordning to stir the giants before Tiamat is brought into the world. Early in Tyranny of Dragons, the characters join a caravan traveling from Baldur's Gate to Waterdeep. By the time they reach Waterdeep, they should be 5th level. You can use the party's arrival in Waterdeep to shift attention away from Tyranny of Dragons story by dropping reports of giant sightings near the... This is actually very well written here. Near the Temple Farm of Goldenfields. The Emerald Enclave is looking for adventurers to help the Goldenfield borders patrol it. If the characters take the bait, Goldenfields becomes the starting point for this adventure. Although you forgo most of the Tyranny of Dragons in favor of this new adventure, there's nothing stopping you from returning to Tyranny of Dragons later. Part of Tyranny of Dragons takes place in the Skyreach Castle, a flying fortress belonging to a cloud giant named Blagothkus. You can make him a pivotal figure in the adventure by having the castle appear when the character is around 7th to 8th level, giving them a chance to meet the evil cloud giant and convince him to aid their cause. The characters might also want to confront him after meeting the ghost of his dead son. The shattering of the ordning has the following effects on him. And it doesn't actually give us any of the effects on him. It just cuts off. But, yeah, I guess maybe that's tied into what's actually in Storm King's Thunder. But this is very well written as far as combining the two. They talk about Emirth has an adjustment to spellcasting. Megara the Dawn Titan casts Fireball requiring no components. Tresim here in this book has also been changed to monstrosity, so I believe that means that all Tresims are now monstrosities. They are no longer beasts in any form. Uthgardt Shaman has adjustments to their spellcasting, and their descriptive text has been adjusted. It says the sidebar's name is now Uthgardt Shaman Tribal Spells, and the following spells have been cut from the list. In the Black Raven section of the sidebar, polymorph into a raven only is now polymorph self into a raven, And the elk section of the sidebar, Fine Steed, elk only, has been changed to Fine Steed. Cast as one action, elk only. So just adjustments to that overall. It says the spells in the Sky Pony section are Gust of Wind and Witch Bolt. Yak Folk description. The Yak Folk description up to the Skin Crawler section has been changed to the following. They are known as the Yakaria. The Lucky Chosen in their language are ogre-sized bipeds with curved horns. Oh, they changed basically their entire backstory and their society, how that works. More adjustments to spellcasting. All right, so that's pretty much it for Storm King's Thunder. Sword Coast Adventures Guide, half-elf variant. Finally, they removed the elf trait Keen Senses has been removed, which is nice because it was pointless and there was no reason to ever take it. And they adjusted the Radiant Sunbolt for the Sun Soul Monk. It says several adjustments have been made to the Radiant Sunbolt feature. They now are listed here. When you choose this tradition at 3rd level, you can hurl searing bolts of magical radiance. You get a new attack option that can be used with the attack action. The special attack is a ranged spell attack with a range of 30 feet. You are proficient with it, and you add your dexterity modifier to its attack and damage rolls. If its damage is radiant and the damage die is a d4, this die changes as you gain monk levels as shown in the martial arts column of the monk table. When you take the attack action on your turn and use this special attack, as part of it, you can spend 1 key point to make this special attack twice as a bonus action. When you gain the extra attack feature, this special attack can be used for any of the attacks you make as part of the attack action. I think that's overall clarification, but I do believe this is the first time I've seen it officially referenced as a ranged spell attack, which I believe anything that you have that might adjust and alter ranged spell attacks can now technically work with Radiant Sunbolts. Also, Rakish Audacity from the Swashbuckler was changed. Starting at 3rd level, you give yourself a bonus to your initiative rolls equal to your charisma modifier. You also gain an additional way to use your sneak attack. You do not need advantage on your attack roll to use sneak attack against a creature if you are within 5 feet of it, no other creatures are within 5 feet of you, and you don't have disadvantage on the attack roll. All the other rules for sneak attack still apply to you. I feel like there was some adjustments to that. I thought you could have allies within 5 feet, but I guess that's different now. And then that's all of the adjustments for Sword Coast Adventures Guide. Tales from the Yawning Portal, I believe this is the first time it's ever received adjustments. So it says the map art has been adjusted for the Hidden Shrine of Temokan to be more readable. And the Ring of Resistance is now a Ring of Protection. Adamantine Jaw adjustments and just a couple changes to some of the enemies in there. Tasha's Cauldron of Everything has its first errata as well. So customizing your origin in the 3rd sentence, a typical character race in D&D has been replaced with a D&D race that has the ability score increased trait. That's all of them, so that's a little confusing. On the next sentence, your character's race has been replaced with your character's race if it includes the ability score increased trait. And then it has ability score increases. The first sentence under the subset head has been cut. In the second sentence, it says this increase has been replaced with the ability score increased trait in a race. Languages your character's race includes has been replaced with if your character's race has the languages trait. This trait includes, and then proficiencies. Some races that include the ability score increase also grant proficiencies. And this is the unfortunate one. Here's custom lineage. The following sidebar has been added, or following sentence has been added to the end of the sidebar after the hanging list. Your race is considered to be a custom lineages for any game features that requires a certain race, such as elf or dwarf, meaning you're not eligible for any any sort of magic items that say that you have to be an elf or a dwarf, any subclasses that are restricted, or any feats that say you need to be an elf. Unfortunately, custom lineage, even if you're a custom lineage elf, you only count as custom lineage, not as custom lineage and elf. Artificer spell list has purify food and drink added to it. Perfected armor for the armor artificers in the guardian subsection has been replaced with the following: when a huge or smaller creature you can see ends its turn within 30 feet of you, you can use your reaction to magically force it to make a strength saving throw against your spell save DC. On a failure, you pull the creature up to 25 feet directly to an unoccupied space. And then repeating shot also got an adjustment. In the second paragraph, the first sentence has been replaced with the following: if the weapon lacks ammunition, it produces its own, automatically creating one piece of ammunition when the wielder makes a ranged attack with it. Animating performance, this is, I believe, for the bard. The first sentence of animating performance has been replaced with the following. As an action, you can animate one large or smaller non-magical item within 30 feet that isn't being worn or carried. They finally made the adjustments to those fighters that didn't make any sense. In the maneuvers entry, disarming strike is now disarming attack. In the feats entry, piercer has been added before sharpshooter. They've removed weapon master from those couple of things that didn't make any sense because it never made any sense for a fighter to take them. And then it says an added martial adept basically instead. Hoplite piercer has been added before polearm master. Gathered swarm, I believe this is for the one of the rangers. In the second sentence, until you die was changed to while you're alive. Warping implosion. In the third sentence, strength saving throw has been changed to strength saving throw against your spell save DC. An eldritch adept. The first sentence has been replaced with studying occult lore. You learned one eldritch invocation option of your choice from the warlock class. Your spellcasting ability modifier for this invocation is intelligence, wisdom, or charisma. That's big. I don't believe that was listed there before. So now when you choose to get any invocation from the warlock class, it can use wisdom or intelligence if you'd like it to. Chapter 3, construct spirit. In the hit points entry of the construct spirit stat block, above third has been changed to above fourth. Astral shard. At the end of the first paragraph, the words for your sorcerer spells have been cut. Cauldron of rebirth. In the first paragraph, your druid spells has been changed to your spells. And chapter 4, in the last sentence, priest has been changed to healer. Tomb of Annihilation errata. All basically adjustments to Mad Monkey Fever has been adjusted to be Blue Mist Fever. And that's pretty much throughout the document, as you can see here in multiple sections. Blue Mist. Blue Mist. The fourth row of the column has collapsing floor and roll again. Blue Mist Fever. Succumb to a form of the madness has been removed as suffering from the effects of the Blue Mist Fever. Immune to madness has been changed to make a wisdom saving throw, taking psychic damage on a failed save or half on a success. Mad Monkey Mist is now Magic Mist. So that's that. And then lastly, we have Volo's Guide to Monsters. Big changes, a lot of content cut from this. So chapter 1, third paragraph has been replaced with the following. The lore in this chapter represents the perspective of Volo and is mostly limited to the Forgotten Realms. In the realms and elsewhere in the D&D multiverse, reality is more varied than the idiosyncratic views represented here. DM use the material that inspires you and leave the rest. Role-playing a beholder, the 3 paragraphs before the tables have been replaced with, when you're role-playing a beholder, the following table contains possible inspiration. They suggest characteristics that a beholder might possess. Paying the price section has been removed. Role-playing gnolls and cultists of Yeenagu. The 2 paragraphs before the tables have been replaced with the following. When you're role-playing a cultist or gnoll of Yeenagu, the following tables contain possible inspiration. They suggest characteristics that NPCs might possess. Role-playing a kobold has been removed completely. Role-playing a mind flayer, the paragraph before the tables has been replaced with, when you're role-playing a mind flayer, the following tables contain possible inspiration. They suggest characteristics that mind flayers might possess. Orcs as underlings has been removed. Role-playing the orc, the 2 paragraphs have been replaced with when role-playing an orc. It's basically all of them have been adjusted to say these are things they might do or possibly do. Half-orcs has been replaced. UNT, role-playing a UNT has the possible inspiration treatment as well. Cannibalism and sacrifice, the sidebar has been removed. Once again, all of the alignment trait sections have been removed from any of the various races contained within Volo's Guide to Monsters. That's across the board. And that is it. So there you go, folks. That is my coverage of all of the Sage Advice book updates, the sort of new errata. As a reminder, you might, if you go out and buy a newer printing of whatever the book that was mentioned here, these updates will be there for you in the book. Now, this always is, the reason Wizards of the Coast does this is because they don't want you to sit down at the table, even though it still very much could happen, and have multiple versions of the book kicking around and then have to say, well, did you print out the errata and stick it in the book so you know what's up to date? Rather than if you just go buy the newest book, it'll have the newest information in it. But it still brings up contents that I've brought up in the past. Who's right in that scenario? you're sitting at the table. The DM has a 2014 Dungeon Master's Guide, and you have a 2021 Dungeon Master's Guide, or let's go Player's Handbook even. The DM has a 2014 Player's Handbook, and you have a 2021 Player's Handbook, and one of your fellow players has a 2017 Player's Handbook with printed errata. Which one's right? Obviously, the 2021 is the newest version with the most up-to-date rulings that Wizards of the Coast has, but the Dungeon Master is using a 2014 version, which might not have, like, say, that your Beastmaster Rangers, Animal Companions attacks are magical at level 7. That's a thing that was updated, but it wasn't in there at 2014. Who's right in that instance? There is no right or wrong answer. I can't tell you definitively, but, you know, this is the problem we have when we have multiple books. And also, I feel like it is a problem that Wizards of the Coast is so reluctant to release errata when they have it, unless it's in a printed book. If people got into the habit of checking the errata constantly because it's always being updated, then people might be more keen to be aware that there are adjustments, rather than having to wait 6+ months or more to see an errata, when, again, the company behind it has known there's been a documented issue for however long. They're just waiting till the last possible minute, till it's in print, to put it out there. So let me know what you guys think. Like I said, I didn't think there was anything earth-shattering as far as things go. Some of the adjustments were kind of nice to see, things like the whole non-magical weapons changed to non-magical attacks. The entire removal of alignment for all player characters across the board I thought was an interesting choice, but it's there. But then they also keep references to alignment elsewhere. Why not just, if alignment doesn't matter that much, which it really hasn't in 5th edition. Like, they have that whole section in the sort of character background. They changed all the alignment pieces to be typically this, a creature typically has this alignment. Why not just pull that entire section out entirely and just delete it from the game if you don't want alignment to be there? Why reference it in some spots and not in others? I feel like just removing it entirely would fix the problem. And then again, a lot of changes, it seems, to things that would, issues that people may have brought up against Wizards of the Coast and the way they portray things. Like, again, for example, Mad Monkey Fever being changed to Blue Mist Fever is definitely, I understand the reasonings and stuff behind that, as well as changing some of the various references to the different characters, changing things like barbarians to nomads, and, and removing nature things and references in certain ways. Stuff that we had seen originally started with the adjustments they were making to Curse of Strahd has sort of now cascaded down to cover a bunch of other books as well. And it's kind of updating things to make things more in line, which with the current day and, the culture and society that we are in, adjusting these sort of names and what they call different things to be less potentially insensitive than they were in the past. And again, my biggest kind of complaint is the adjustment to custom lineage, is that I could be a custom lineage elf, but I don't count as an elf for purposes of gathering feats. Like, if I'm a custom lineage elf, to get the stuff that I want, I'm not eligible for Elven Accuracy, for example, because I'm not considered an elf, even though in just about every aspect, and possibly how I self-identify my character as an elf, I'm not technically mechanically an elf, which is dumb, and I would allow my players to do that if they chose to go that route in my game. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching. Sorry this was long. I didn't realize it was going to take as long as it did, but I'm very glad that I separated this and the previous video out. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.